बिना मतलब का। अब नई टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई है। अब पहले वाले लोग तो पुरनका चीजवा को देखते थे, समझते थे।
आजकल सब मोबाइल पर देखते रहता है और उसी में लिखते रहता अंड बंड और उसी को देख करके करता। जरा ध्यान रखिए, पूरे गांव में घूमिए, जो भी चीज है उसको भी देखिए और आप चिंता मत करिए। हम लोग जो भी आपको सरकार की तरफ से देते हैं, अगर आपको हमको बढ़ाना होगा तो आप मांग मत करिए, ये मेरी इच्छा होगी। हम मांग जितना दिन करते रहिएगा उतना दिन छोड़े रहेंगे। ये आप अच्छी तरह जान लीजिए। क्या किया है आपको, बोलिए? हम ही ना किए हैं सब चीज जी। इतना ज्यादा पंचायत का बोलिए देश में कहीं हुआ जितना बढ़िया हम किए हैं। तब मांग मत करिए कि हम लोग का थोड़ा बढ़ा दीजिए। अरे हम तो अपने बढ़ा देंगे। अगर मांग करते रहिएगा तो गलत बात है। तो कौन सलाह देता है? हम तो सबको कहेंगे, किसी के चक्कर में मत पड़िए और खूब काम करिए,
खूब मेहनत करिए। अब बोलिए, हर घर नल का जल हम बनवाए तो 50% हमने दे दिया पंचायत और नगर निकाय को, और 3 जो इंपॉर्टेंट जो चीज था उसको हम दे दिए ये डिपार्टमेंट को, पीएचडी को। लेकिन अब इस बार जो हम देखे कि हर बार पंचायत 5 साल के बाद तो बदल जाता है ना, तो देखने वाले और तो कहीं पर कुछ गड़बड़ा जाता। हम देखे इस बार तो हमने कहा कि पूरा का पूरा जहां कहीं भी छूट गया है उसको, और उसका पूरा का पूरा मेंटेनेंस यही जो इनका विभाग है, जो है इनका जो है लोक स्वास्थ्य अभियंत्रण विभाग, हम इन्हीं को कर दिए हैं। अब लोक स्वास्थ्य अभियंत्रण विभाग में एक तो आपके यहाँ जो काम करने वाले हैं सबका चर्चा हो ही गया, वो तो काम करेंगे। अब इसके लिए और भी जो मदद होगी लोक स्वास्थ्य अभियंत्रण विभाग को, उसको राज्य सरकार करेगी। और बाकी जो आपसे आता है और उससे जो फायदा लोगों को मिलेगा, तो आप चिंता मत करिए, हम लोग सब मेंटेनेंस करेंगे। और उससे जो भी आमदनी होगी आपको पंचायत को लाभ मिलेगा। आप ये सब मत बोलिएगा कि आपको और भी कोई काम करना है तो पंचायत को पैसा देते हैं ना जी। कितना पैसा देते हैं पंचायत को हम लोग सरकार की तरफ से? हर पंचायत को 3 स्टेज पर है और नगर निकाय सबको दे देते हैं। तो हम लोग तो वो सब भी आपको मदद कर देंगे, लेकिन आप उसकी चिंता मत करिएगा। आज जरूरत पड़ेगा
आपको जो पैसा देते हैं हम बढ़ाएंगे, लेकिन मांग मत करिए, समझ गए? फालतू बात मत किया करिए। ये सब करेंगे, सब चीज मत करिए, लोगों के हित में है। नहीं तो सब के सब बिना मतलब का करेगा। बोलिए,
करके डिले कर रहे हैं।
मांग बंद करिएगा। हम तो करने वाले थे, आपको पता ही नहीं है कि हम बढ़ाने वाले थे, लेकिन जब मांग करने लगा तब छोड़ दीजिए। अब बंद करिएगा तो ऐसे ही आपको फायदा हो जाएगा, ये मत सोचिए। अब जो भी हम जानते हैं, हम लोग यहां पर जो काम कर रहे हैं और जो केंद्र सरकार है उसने कोई काम किया है जी, अब कोई मदद है उसका। लेकिन वो लोग सबसे ज्यादा मीडिया पर कब्जा कर लिया है, तो अनाप शनाप प्रचार करता है और अब सब लोग सोशल मीडिया को देखते रहते हैं और उसी में बोलते रहते हैं। अब लोग कोई मदद करता है और उसी चक्कर में कोई सलाह दे दिया हो कि जरा मांग करो, और वही पटिया वाला कहीं कहीं नीचे कहवा दिया होगा। ये सब बकवास है। अब पार्टी के आधार पर हम लोग करते हैं जी। और दूसरे राज्यों में बोलिए, जो भी चयन होता है पार्टी के आधार पर न होता है। अकेला हमने बिहार में न कहा कि न, अब लोग जरा पूरे तौर पर समझिए। आज जितने हमारे सरकारी अधिकारी भी मौजूद हैं उनको भी कहेंगे, जरा घूमते रहिए, लोगों को सलाह देते रहिए, और किसी तरह का कोई दिक्कत किसी को होता है आप बताइए। आपको मालूम नहीं है, अगर किसी का कोई जो जीत के आता है और उनका निधन हो जाता है तो उनको हम कितना मदद करते हैं, पहले ही से तय किए हुए, और आगे के लिए करते हैं, उसके परिवार के लिए भी, वो तो अलग बात है। लेकिन हर महीने कुछ करना है तो किया जाएगा। और जितना ज्यादा पंचायत को हम पैसा दिए हुए आपको काम करने के लिए, एक वो चीज है, और यह हर घर नल के जल से जो आएगा उससे जो आमदनी या अन्य प्रकार की है, तो हम लोग तो सब मेंटेनेंस हम लोग कराएंगे, आप चिंता मत करिए। आज जो भी होगा वो भी एडिशनल होगा और मिल माल करके हम सब तरह का सहयोग हम मदद करेंगे, समझ गए ना। हम करने वाले थे तो हम दोहरा के कह रहे हैं, इधर कोई मांग किया तो छोड़ दिए। अब जिस दिन बंद कर दीजिएगा तो आपको बहुत जल्दी फायदा हो जाएगा, ये आप अच्छी तरह जान लीजिए। इसलिए शांत रहिए, सब चीज सबके हित में है और सबके लिए हम लोग काम करते हैं। कोई दिल्ली वाला और वो लोग कोई इधर से उधर बाएं दाएं करेगा तो आपको कुछ देगा जी? खाली प्रचार ही ना होता है। जो केंद्र से जो मिलता था राज्य को आजकल मिल रहा है, जो शेयर है राज्य का हिस्सा है 41% मिलता है। अब तो ये सब बिना मतलब का इधर उधर हो रहा, तो काहे सब कर रहे हैं? हम लोग तो पूरा का पूरा काम कर रहे हैं। अब बिहार जो गरीब राज्य था उसको कितना बढ़ाए? आप सब भूल गए कि जब हम आए थे उस समय क्या था? बजट कितना था जी? 21 की 22,000? 21-22,000 का बजट था, समझे। 2016 में हम आए। आप बढ़ते 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 आज कितना हो गया?
2,63,000।
2,63,000 का। तो राज्य सरकार मेहनत कर करके अपनी तरफ से इतना काम कर रही है, तो भूल मत जाइए। यह मत समझिए कि दिल्ली का कोई पैसा है। सब हम लोग यही कर रहे हैं जो हम लोग काम कर रहे थे। हर घर नल का जल तो केंद्र वाला भी शुरू किया। अब बाद में वो पैसा देने लगा कि ले लीजिए हर घर नल का। हम कहना लेंगे हम पैसा, हम तो अपना हर घर नल का जल, तो कहता हम एक एक को हर घर नल का जल दिए, तो वो दिया। हर घर तक बिजली पहुंचा दिए। तो एक एक काम जो कर रहे हैं 7 निश्चय में, जो हमने 15 में ऐलान किया, आज जो काम करा रहे हैं, आज जितना ज्यादा। अब पहले क्या था जी? कहीं घर में जाने का रास्ता था? हम जब एमपी थे तो अपने क्षेत्रवा में घूमते थे। केंद्र में हम मंत्री रहते थे, एमपी तब भी आते थे, शनिचर को आज जाते थे। तो आपको मालूम है किसी दिन मैंने समझिए 12 किलोमीटर, किसी दिन 14 किलोमीटर हम पैदल चलते थे अपने क्षेत्र में। अब आज जरूरत पड़ता है कहीं जी? तो कितना बिजली करवा रहे और कितना ज्यादा हम लोग सड़क बनवा रहे हैं, कितना पुल पुलिया बनवा रहे हैं। तो ये पंचायत वाले भूलिए मत, कितना ज्यादा काम हुआ। लड़कियां कितना कम पढ़ती थी, और लड़कियों को पढ़ाने के लिए जो हमने व्यवस्था किया, और उसको जो साइकिल देना शुरू किया, बोलिए इसके पहले कहीं कोई साइकिल चलाती थी? और जब बिहार में पहली बार लड़कियों को साइकिल दिया गया तो यहां विदेश से लोग आए देखने के लिए और इसकी प्रशंसा किए। आजकल कोई बोलता है? जो बिहार में हम लोगों ने काम शुरू किया, अब बाद में लड़कों ने भी डिमांड किया, 11 से उसको भी हम लोगों ने दे दिया पैसा। अब आप सोचिए कितना ज्यादा मेहनत, कितना बढ़िया हो रहा है, कितना ज्यादा है। हर गांव की स्थिति बेहतर हुई है कि नहीं हुई है? आने जाने का सुविधा हम लोग सब सड़क का भी करवा रहे हैं, न सिर्फ मेंटेनेंस बल्कि उसको और बेहतर करने के लिए, और जहां जरूरत पड़ेगा उसका विस्तार भी करेंगे। तो ये सब हम लोग कर रहे हैं, जहां किए उसके आगे कर रहे हैं। हम तो आपको इसीलिए सब बोल रहे हैं कि जो काम शुरू किया गया उन चीजों को भूलना नहीं चाहिए। आजकल कुछ होता है, कोई बुझा अंड बंड बुला देता है और उसी पर बोलने लगते हैं, तो भूल गए कहां से शुरू है। कुछ था पहले, और जब शुरू करके यहां तक हम पहुंचा दिए, अब जो भी है उसका और विस्तार करेंगे। तो हम तो यही आग्रह करेंगे कि अपना देखते रहिए, जो भी मोबाइल तोबाइल देखना हो देखते रहिए, लेकिन भूलिए मत जो काम 6 से हम लोगों ने जितना ज्यादा बढ़वाया है उसको भूलिएगा मत। अब कितना ज्यादा बढ़वा रहे हैं? अब बोलिए। अब सबसे दूर वाले जगह का हमने करा दिया कि 6 घंटा मैक्सिमम पटना आने में। अब उसके बाद उसको आगे और आगे बढ़वा रहे हैं कि 5 घंटा सबसे दूर से भी। तो एक एक काम हम लोग करवा रहे हैं, तो सबके सुविधा के लिए करवा रहे हैं, हर पंचायत के लिए करवा रहे हैं। कहीं कोई दिक्कत है तो क्यों हम पंचायत में जाकर देखते हैं जी? एक एक जगह जाकर के देखते हैं। कैसे हम लोगों ने बनाया, स्वयं सहायता समूह, जीविका नामकरण किया, जीविका दीदियां
कितनी बड़ी संख्या में गरीब परिवार के 1,30,00,000 से भी ज्यादा आज सबको काम दे रहे हैं।
अब आजकल जान रहे हैं आप, दिल्ली वाला कुछ जीविका दीदियों में से भी कुछ लोगों को खोज करके उल्टा पुल्टा करवाने के चक्कर में, आज जिस दिन वो इधर उधर उल्टा पुल्टा करेगी तब भूल जाएगी कि कौन किया। अब आप बताइए, कोई साल है जहां हम पूरे राज्य में जाकर के सब जगह जीविका दीदियों से बात करते हैं, सुनते हैं कि आजकल केंद्र वाला अंड बंड प्रचार करेगा। तो जितने लोग हैं, अगर आज की बैठक में सब जो है जिला परिषद के सदस्य हों, पंचायत के मुखिया जो भी हों, सब लोगों को कहेंगे कि इन सब चीजों को भूलिएगा मत। जो काम राज्य सरकार कर रही है यही करेगी, नहीं तो राज्य सरकार को खत्म करिएगा तो इसके बाद आपको पता है दिल्ली वाला कुछ करेगा? कुछ नहीं करेगा। ऐसा ना मीडिया पर कब्जा किए हुए अपना, तो बेचारा प्रेस वाला से भी देखिए ना क्या हाल है, बुरा हाल है सबका। उसको भी कहता है कि तुमको यही देना है। अब हम ही लोग हैं तो यहां पर भी लोग हैं, तो मेरा थोड़ा सा छाप देगा लेकिन कुछ नहीं उसके आगे छापेगा। और उसको दिल्ली में भी पता चल जाएगा तो कहेगा इसको बंद करो, इसको मत चलाओ। तो आजकल यही चलता है। तो कुछ पता चलेगा जितना हम लोग काम करते हैं, तो कहीं तो सब तरह से काम कर रहे हैं। एक एक चीज को देखिए, और कहां कहीं भी कोई दिक्कत है तो सब तीनों चीज का आज आप लोगों को करवा दिए हैं शिलान्यास। तो हर तरह से सब तरह से, अब पंचायत का तो हम बता दिए, और जितना भी है पंचायत पोर्टल का और सब कुछ को करवा रहे हैं। तो जितने लोगों का भी और ट्रेनिंग व्रेनिंग सब करा दिया गया है। तो इस सब लोगों को बिल्कुल ज्यादा करके, और जिनको सरकारी अंकेक्षकों को नियुक्ति पत्र का वितरण किया गया है, और बिहार लोक सेवा आयोग के द्वारा 366 सरकारी अंकेक्षकों की बहाली की गई है। अब जितना भी आगे और जरूरत पड़ेगा किसी की बहाली का, तो हम लोग सब करवाएंगे। तो ये सब करेंगे, आपके हित में काम करेंगे। और जितना काम हो रहा है तो हम तो ये करवे करेंगे, लेकिन जितने लोग हमें सबसे अनुरोध करेंगे कि सबका पंचायत सरकार भवन ठीक से बन जाए, और उसका ठीक ठाक मेंटेनेंस भी होगा, और सब लोग बैठेंगे। और आप जानते ही हैं कि सब तरह के लोग उन सब पंचायत सरकार भवन में रहते ही हैं। और दूसरी बात आप जानते ही न है कि हम जो 7/2 में सब जगह लगवा रहे हैं आपको सोलर लाइट, तो हर पंचायत में, हर इसमें हाँ वार्ड में, तो हम तो वार्ड में भी जाकर के देखा कि हमको जरूरत पड़ेगा तो 10 से आगे बढ़ाइएगा, वो भी करेंगे। तो एक एक चीज का करवा रहे हैं, वो भी काम बहुत तेजी से हमने कहा कि वो भी काम कर देंगे। तो शाम में किसी को दिक्कत होगी, शाम में सब तरह रोशनी दिखेगा। आप बिना मतलब का बिजली का उपयोग मत करिएगा, आराम करिएगा। अब बिजली के उपयोग के लिए भी तो हम लोग चाह रहे हैं कि सौर ऊर्जा का प्रयोग हो, तो छत पर भी लगाने के लिए जितना सरकारी बिल्डिंग है उस सब में तो लगवा ही रहे हैं। हम प्रेरित करेंगे हर लोगों को कि अपने घर में भी लगाइए। आपको मालूम है कि एक समय आएगा तो ये जो बिजली है,
तो जिससे उसका निर्माण होता है, एक समय आएगा उस समय तक वो
खत्म हो जाएगा। लेकिन मुख्य चीज क्या है? जो सौर ऊर्जा है, तो वही चीज सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो हम उसको भी बढ़वा रहे हैं। तो एक एक चीज को देख लीजिए, किसी और को तो ये सब का ध्यान नहीं है। हम करेंगे, किसी को अच्छा लगेगा तो पता चलेगा कि वहां से भी कहने लगेगा कि इसी को करिए। अब बाद में कहेगा कि बस वही लोग कहे हैं, और हम लोग जो कर रहे हैं उसको कोई को कहेगा कि नहीं तो सब भी कौन कर रहा है जी सौर ऊर्जा का काम। और यहां पर लोगों को बिजली तक पहुंचाने के लिए जो उपाय जो हम लोग कर रहे हैं, तो इसीलिए हर तरह से जो भी काम हम लोग कर रहे हैं, तो इन सब चीजों पर आप लोग ध्यान दे दीजिए। तो जो कुछ भी है अब आप समझ लीजिए कि कितना ज्यादा, तो पहले से भी बता दिए हैं। अब कितनी ज्यादा महिलाएं हैं, तो सब तरह से सब जगह सक्रिय न है जी। तो सब तरह से पुरुष हो स्त्री हो, अब कितना ज्यादा आगे एक्टिव हो गई। इसलिए सब काम हम लोग कर रहे हैं। तो इसलिए सब कुछ भी हो कि अब तो आप जानते ही हैं कि आपको सबको पंचायत बिहार पोर्टल का भी शुभारंभ कर दिया गया है हर तरह से, तो इसलिए अनुरक्षकों का भी चयन कर लिया गया है। तो हर तरह से और भी जो जरूरत पड़ेगा जहां, उन सब चीजों को हम लोग करने की कोशिश करेंगे और बाकी कोई कमी नहीं हो और सब लोग आगे बढ़िए, यही हमारा कहना है। और जो भी हमारे अधिकारी हैं उनसे हम यही कहेंगे कि भाई जरा तेजी से काम कराइए, अगर करा दीजिएगा तेजी से तो हमको बड़ी खुशी होगी। नहीं तो जानते हैं बिजली वाला तो हम क्या कर रहे थे, जितना तेजी से हम कर रहे थे, एक एक आदमी को जो बिजली का देते हैं तो उसके लिए जो हम लोगों ने किया था देने का जो प्रीपेड मीटर, तो उसमें भी हम कहा कि जल्दी कर दीजिए, तो इतना कम लगेगा। अभी कभी किसी को ज्यादा पैसा आ जाता है, फालतू बात है। अब वो रहेगा तो जितना वो खर्चा करेगा उतना ही आएगा। तो इसलिए हम सब चीज के लिए चाहते हैं बहुत तेजी से। आज तो हम मंत्री जी को बुलाए हुए थे, तो मंत्री जी कहीं बाहर चले गए थे, नहीं तो उनको भी हम कहने वाले थे, उन्हीं से करवाने पड़े थे कि इन सब चीजों को करिए, लेकिन आज नहीं थे बेचारे। तो खैर हम आपको इतना बता दे रहे हैं, ये सब चीज कर रहे हैं। तो महामहिम मुख्य सचिव महोदय, हम आग्रह करेंगे कि पूरा का पूरा रोज आप मीटिंग कीजिए, आप तेजी से काम करिए। आप मंत्री जी आपसे यही करेंगे, कोई दिक्कत हो तो वित्त मंत्री जी से भी बतियाइए, कहीं कोई दिक्कत हो। और आपको कहीं कोई दिक्कत आवे, हम सब बात बता दिया आपको, तो कहीं इधर उधर किसी के कहने के चक्कर में मत रहिएगा। हम सबके पक्ष में आज भी बता दिए, अगर कहीं कोई समस्या रहे सीधे तुरंत आकर के बताइए। और लोक स्वास्थ्य अभियंत्रण विभाग को और काम था, अब लोक स्वास्थ्य विभाग के अभियंत्रण विभाग के हमारे मंत्री हैं, अब कितना ज्यादा एक एक जगह का मेंटेनेंस कितना बढ़िया ढंग से होगा, तो ये भी आज मौजूद है, सब होगा। इसलिए आज तो लोगों का जो हो रहा है, अब हम तो कह रहे हैं कि भाई हम बिल्कुल अंत में भी कहते हैं कि आज तो बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं 2000 का, अब बाकी जो बचा हुआ है उसका भी इसी साल में तय कर लीजिए कि अन्य जगहों पर भी इसका निर्माण हो जाए। मैंने पुलिस सरकार राज्य इसका पंचायत सरकार भवन, तो हम तो लोगों को बता दिया पंचायत सरकार भवन, इसलिए जो भी पंचायत के अधिकारी ये सब लोग हैं, जो इलेक्टेड लोग हैं, आप सब लोग आप सोच लीजिए कि आपको कितना बड़ा स्टेटस हम किया है। इसलिए आपको तो हम इज्जत करते ही रहते हैं, करते रहेंगे, लेकिन आप लोगों को कोई समस्या आवे कहीं पर भी आप तुरंत हमारे ऑफिस को भेजिए। अगर किसी तरह का आपको कोई समस्या लगे, हमको पता चलेगा तो घूमते घामते भी हम जाकर देखेंगे। तो ये कहना चाहते हैं, इसलिए आप सब लोग बुलंद रहिए और काफी तेजी से काम हो रहा, अब बड़ा तेजी से सब काम पूरा करा दीजिए, तब हम भरोसा करें ना जी। बोलिए ना जरा, अब हमारा भाषण हो गया, अब आप बोलिए, कहिए। अब मुख्य
जिलाधिकारी लोग भी बात सुन रहे हैं, जमीन तुरंत चयन करके 1 से 1 महीने के अंदर में हम लोग दोबारा कार्यक्रम लेके आएंगे।
ठीक जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। चलिए,
बहुत बहुत आभार महोदय। और अब धन्यवाद ज्ञापन के लिए मैं आग्रह कर रहा हूं श्री आनंद शर्मा, निदेशक पंचायत राज विभाग।
सर्वप्रथम मैं माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी का धन्यवाद एवं आभार प्रकट करता हूं कि उन्होंने आज पंचायती राज विभाग की विभिन्न जन उपयोगी योजनाओं के शिलान्यास शुभारंभ हेतु अपने अत्यंत व्यस्त कार्यक्रम के बावजूद अपना बहुमूल्य समय प्रदान किया। आपके ऊर्जावान संदेश को हम सभी सादर ग्रहण करते हैं और विश्वास दिलाते हैं कि आपके दिए दिशा निर्देश का हम अक्षरशः पालन करेंगे। माननीय मंत्री वित्त विभाग, माननीय मंत्री पंचायती राज विभाग, माननीय मंत्री लोक स्वास्थ्य अभियंत्रण विभाग की उपस्थिति के लिए भी हम सभी हार्दिक धन्यवाद एवं आभार प्रकट करते हैं। माननीय मुख्यमंत्री महोदय के प्रधान सचिव, मुख्य सचिव महोदय, प्रधान सचिव गृह, प्रधान सचिव वित्त विभाग एवं अन्य पदाधिकारी गण द्वारा भी इस महत्वपूर्ण कार्यक्रम में शिरकत कर हमें अनुग्रहित करने की कृपा की गई है। आपकी इस अनुकंपा के लिए पंचायती राज विभाग एवं हम सभी सदैव कृतज्ञ रहेंगे। मैं सभी उपस्थित वीसी के माध्यम से जितने भी जुड़े हुए जनप्रतिनिधिगण हैं, पदाधिकारी गण हैं एवं प्रांगण में मौजूद अन्य पदाधिकारियों गण को भी धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करते हुए अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं। धन्यवाद।
We were at $500 billion in the year 2021. In the year 2023, the year just gone by, we grew from 675 to 776 billion. Prime Minister Modi has consistently been guiding us that we should bring out high quality products from India. It's not only about our exports, it's our consumers.
Okay.
I am responsible to 140 crore Indians. But when we talk of self-reliance, we are not closing India's doors to international engagement. If you at all ask me, I think we are opening them wider. The people of India are smart and understand what's good for them. They don't want to be a Sri Lanka or a Pakistan. From a fragile 5 economy 10 years ago to the world's 5th largest economy. The mics are determined by the chair, and no mic goes off for anybody, but there's a time limit. It's an absolute travesty of the truth to suggest that the mics are switched off for the opposition members. They're switched off for ruling party member. If you have the Shiv Sena, where Uddhav Thackeray was suddenly chosen out of the blues, whereas Raj Thackeray seemed to be the natural heir. As they say, blood is thinner than water. He wanted his own son. It's important that political families, instead of treating their parties as fiefdoms, should start respecting actual activists who can do good for the country.
With the Delhi Ordinance, how is it going to work?
It'll be passed in the parliament.
So it's going to pass in the Rajya Sabha. You're 100% certain about that.
Whenever there was something my wife was very sure of, she would say 110%.
Okay.
So that's what I'll use today. 110%.
Namaste, Jai Hind. Welcome to another edition of ANI Podcast with Smita Prakash. My guest today is a second-generation politician from the Bharatiya Janata Party. He has seen policies and programs being formed in the party in the Vajpayee-Advani era and now to the Modi-Shah era. Piyush Goyal is known to be part of the group of ministers which is on a mission mode to accomplish goals set before them before campaigning begins for the 2024 general election. Mr. Goyal has held several portfolios in the cabinet, but currently he is Minister of Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs and Public Distribution, Minister of Textiles, and is leader of the Rajya Sabha. In his tenure as Minister of Commerce and Industry, India achieved its highest ever exports of about $675 billion in 2021-22. Piyushji, thank you so much for being part of this podcast. I've been looking forward to speaking with you. I've interviewed you before, but not as part of the podcast. This is a completely different format, but you are mahir in all this. You've done a podcast before. So let's begin with, you have a zillion portfolios. So let me begin with commerce and industry first. What are the steps that your government is taking to boost exports? I want to know, because I've just read out in the introduction that the highest ever exports under your tenure, which we had, which is $675 billion, is 2021-22 is what I've heard. So tell me, how did you get here? What was your goal that was set before you? And what is the goal for the next year now?
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, Smitaji. Truly a delight to engage with this new form of communication which is taking the world by storm. And I had the opportunity to see some of your shows. They're really quite interesting, very engaging,
Thank
very
you.
enjoyable.
Thank you.
Smitaji, exports are the strength of an economy, particularly when you're producing high quality products. They help you reach out to newer markets. They help you on foreign exchange. They provide jobs to crores of your brothers and sisters. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi is very focused that if India has to become a developed nation, we will have to look at greater international engagements. On 6th of August 2021, in the middle of COVID, he addressed all the industry associations, captains of industry, all our export promotion councils, all the line ministries who are engaged with products, goods and services which are exported. And he truly gave a very, very inspiring address. He brought the best out of each one of us and got the whole ecosystem in the true spirit of the whole of the government approach. Here he made it a whole of the nation approach and got the best coming out of all stakeholders related to the export sector. So we've tried to make ease of doing business so that more people can venture into newer areas. We focused on expanding existing markets, existing sectors, also looked at new sectors, new markets, virgin areas where we had not ventured before. We engaged 180 missions across the world, and all mission heads were given a KPI, a key performance
For
indicator.
those who don't know, just to interrupt you, missions, you mean embassies, right?
The embassies or high commissions.
High commissions, right.
And he got all of them engaged, saying that you will be assessed on your performance on trade, your performance on technology, your performance on tourism.
Okay.
And this became the collective energy of the whole ecosystem. And we were at $500 billion in the year 2021. You're right, we achieved 675 in the year 21-22, but I'll just correct you a little bit. In the year 22-23, the year just gone by, a very challenging year, very difficult year.
Yeah.
The conflict is not over. World's biggest and most developed nations are facing recession. Inflation is very high. Despite that, last year we grew from 675 to 776 billion.
Okay.
So we've actually, if you see in rupees, we've grown from 38 lakh crores of exports 2 years ago. We have grown to 62 lakh crores in 2 years.
Okay.
Now just imagine the jobs, the opportunities, what our startups, our young people are getting.
Right.
Now, tell me, in this quality control, because exports, one was always, talking about exports, and then you say exports cannot go up because India doesn't have quality control. So where was it on your priority list to see that ye jugaad ka maal nahi karna chahiye to have quality control?
I know, aapko yaad hoga, there was a time when you went to the market, you would say कि भैया export quality का माल दिखाना, यहाँ लिखा होता था for export quality.
Yeah.
And मुझे याद है 2014-15 में, in the first year of government, Prime Minister Modi gave us a mantra, Z, zero effect, zero defect. And he has consistently maintained that India cannot afford to be left behind in the race for good quality. Just like you recognize Switzerland for a watch maybe or chocolates, or you recognize Japan for precision manufacturing, or for zero defect manufacturing, or you recognize, let's say, the whiskies of United Kingdom, the Scotch whiskies or single malts. Every country has focused on creating a brand equity.
Okay.
And Prime Minister Modi has consistently been guiding us that we should bring out high quality products from India, which are of world standards, internationally accepted standards. We've been aggressively working on it for twin purposes. It's not only about our exports, it's our consumers.
Okay.
I'm responsible to 140 crore Indians for ensuring that they get a good deal, they get value for money, they get high quality products at affordable prices as Consumer Affairs Minister. So it's the Consumer Affairs Department, based on the demand for high quality products that our consumers have a right to, that is focusing on expanding quality standards. We now have a huge number of standards in goods and services, and we continue to have new standards coming out in the thousands. We have also introduced the concept of quality control orders more aggressively.
Okay.
There were quality control orders by around 2014. I think we had 110, 120 products which came under quality control. Now we have crossed 400, and the target is to go up to 1,500 products which will have a strict quality control order. And all production in India or all goods sold in India, even if imported, will all have to meet those exacting quality standards so that the people of India get a fair deal and our whole mindset for quality becomes...
How do you enforce that?
The quality control orders are enforced at every point. So if any imports come in, they're enforced at the customs, at the borders. Within India, we do keep doing quality checks for goods being sold in the market. We pick up samples randomly from shops and get them quality tested. We also ensure that goods that are sold have the mark of BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards. So Bureau of Indian Standards for all goods which are non-food products, and the FSSAI for all food-related products. These two organizations, we have now centered all the quality control aspects. Earlier, there were many different bodies. Agmark would do something
Yes, correct.
for agricultural products. We've closed that.
Okay.
All Agmark products have gone to FSSAI.
Yeah.
Earlier, BIS used to do over 150 food products.
Yeah.
So
Didn't
market and
know who to
stakeholders
go
are all
to.
confused.
We've now brought it down to only two, BIS and FSSAI. That way we've wound up all the other organizations. We've reduced the burden on our business persons, made it easier to do business, and we are also been able to enforce effective compliance of quality control orders with that.
I'm guessing this is going to come under ease of doing business also, which you talked about, where, people who are manufacturing, they have a single window to go to, and they are not confused as to where to go. On this, India jumped 79 positions from 142 in 2014 to 63rd. You were talking about these regulatory mechanisms that came into force. How do international standards organizations judge that, okay, this is what it means, ease of doing business?
Well, there used to be a very established World Bank ranking methodology. And this methodology was more stakeholder feedback related. So they would come, they would assess the processes and government systems to engage with businesses. They would talk to business persons, micro, small, medium, and large, and find out whether people are really experiencing that change. And out of that, they would work out the index. And the index is not an absolute number.
Okay.
It's a relative index. So you are relative to other countries at 63rd rank today.
Right.
Unfortunately, in 2019, some irregularities were found in a neighboring nation. Not necessarily a nation which has very transparent systems. So therefore, they tried to game the ranking system, got caught with their hand in the till. And the World Bank decided to discontinue the rankings. Despite that, we have continued to rank our states. We have continued to pursue the path of making it easier to do business. So really, we don't know where we are ranked relative to other countries since the ranking is stopped since 19. But I'm quite confident that if any ranking was to be done now, we would be far better, possibly in the top 50.
Are the states competing with each other in this?
It's brilliant to see the kind of enthusiasm among states. I do a lot of interaction with states on this subject, on decriminalizing laws, reducing compliance burden, engaging with a national single window system so that business persons or stakeholders have to go to only one website, and from there they can get all their approvals in. And I must acknowledge that the states, particularly the young officers in states, are equally enthusiastic. It's a collective effort. The center does drive it. And we are getting probably different types of response from different states. But by and large, every state recognizes that in this competitive world, you've got to be industry friendly, business friendly. Otherwise, investment will go to another state.
Correct. Manufacturing sector, let me come to that. Because ever since the Make in India goal has been given by your government to all your state governments, to all your ministers, to the manufacturing industry, and the world is looking at India when it comes to, the supply chain factor. What are the challenges that you faced initially when you took over? What did people come and tell you? And how much have you resolved as far as that is concerned?
Well, I think ANI is also a brand ambassador for Make in India.
Make in India.
We are our very own news agency. And I think you've beaten all other foreign agencies in your work in terms of scale, in terms of depth of coverage. And that is the true strength of India. The 140 crore Indians, particularly our youth, and we are a very youthful country, the kind of new ideas they come up with, the kind of innovations they come up with, there's so much potential in India. Sadly, we were always running after the West. We were always running after the developed countries.
Yeah.
The good part is that has stopped. Now we are looking at indigenous solutions to the multifarious problems the world has. On sustainability, on high quality. Everywhere we are finding our youth come up with very, very brilliant ideas. You see the Startup India mission, we are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world today. All of that is truly made in India innovative products or developed in India innovative services.
Technologies also.
And Make in India really is a subject that Prime Minister Modi initiated right up front in 2014. And over the years, he's been our greatest votary. He talks about it at various forums. He encourages us to experiment. He encourages youngsters to be willing to fail and accept that and go in for bigger challenges. And to my mind, Make in India has now caught the fancy of Indians. I find more and more Indian businesses also talking about selling domestic products with pride. I hear a lot of Indian businesses saying that we're going to cut down our import dependency, particularly with countries who are inimical to India's interests, who are not very favorable to India. And I see there's a sense of pride in being Indian. There's a sense of pride in consuming Indian goods and services. I think this is a kind of a movement which is taking rapid strides. The challenges are always going to be where some people will look at the least cost alternative. I think we need to take a lesson or two from countries like Japan or Korea, where you'll find a lot of nationalist spirit. They are willing to pay a few rupees more, but want a domestically produced product. They have a sense of pride, a nationalist spirit that these are our local products made by our local craftsmen or workers. And they also respect the fact that they have to support their own local industry. This can't be mandated by the government. This has to come from within.
Okay.
And I think gradually I'm pursuing this agenda. Prime Minister Modi keeps talking about this all the time. That if all of us make it our collective decision, our collective duty to support each other, support Indian produced goods and services, sky's the limit where we can achieve results.
So, as I was saying, I've seen you at international forums when people come to you and ask you about the India story, and you very eloquently express, our hopes, aspirations, and where we want to stand vis-a-vis all these things. But I've also covered these kind of summits, in the 2000s, early 2000s, when there was similar kind of curiosity. But at that time, everybody used to say, we want to invest in your companies. We want to produce, we want you to manufacture, we want to bring that products into our country, but you get stuck with red tapeism in your country, stuck with corruption. Are those issues still to discuss? Do you have to still answer those questions?
I don't think today people are complaining about what used to traditionally be our shortcomings. There will certainly be issues, there'll certainly be requests, demands, there'll certainly be areas where we can improvise, and we have no qualms about acknowledging that we still have a long way to go. But they can see the massive transformation that's happened in the country in the last 9 years. All people who come to India and engage with us, they recognize the fact that Prime Minister Modi has been able to offer a corruption-free environment. Today, no need for dalals or middlemen or public policy managers to be stationed in Delhi to keep going around the government offices to get your work done. They recognize the amount of digitalization that has happened. All approvals can be sought online. They recognize the fact that infrastructure has seen massive growth and improvement over the last few years. They also recognize that this government is responsive. They are approachable. You don't need a friend to tell me if you want to have a meeting with me. You just send a mail, and I find merit in your request, or I find merit in the potential that you offer. And very often we meet people from villages, we meet people from small towns. We learn a lot from them. We get a lot of feedback from them. So I think the responsiveness of this government, the willingness and the openness with which we are engaging with stakeholders is truly the calling card of the government today. At local level, at state level, some people do complain of problems. I very often talk to my colleagues in the states also, where I request them that, look, you have this backlog of subsidies that you had promised or incentives you have promised an industry, but you haven't paid up, and it's giving your state a bad name and consequently the country a bad name. But I do find people are responsive by and large. So very recently, I met an industry minister who first thing he did was start the conversation by saying, I took your point very seriously when you told me about this, and I have sorted out and cleared the subsidy claims that you mentioned. I said, I hope you didn't clear the subsidy claim of the case that I mentioned, because that was just what came to my attention. Obviously, there must be many more. He said, no, we've cleared all.
Backlog is all
just
gone.
done for one company. And I was immensely pleased.
Okay.
Now, politically, we may be at different spectrum. We may be at different ideology or against each other. But I get great satisfaction that when it comes to our national interest, save and except a few cases, by and large, the nation and the people in the country are on the same page.
Right. You were mentioning small towns and villages, and we're talking about manufacturing still. So the SMEs, let me get to that part. There are 70, 75 million or 80 million SMEs or something like that in this country.
How do you keep track about quality control? How do we ensure that the stuff that is coming from there is quality? Because suppose something is made, like एक कुर्ता बन गया, या फिर बिस्किट का पैकेट बन गया, या पापड़ बन गया, and it is exported, and if the quality is not good, it's not just the product which brings a bad name, it's the made in India label that brings a bad name. I'm not saying that small and medium enterprises have bad quality, but what I'm guessing is that maybe it is not put through the rigors like a bigger manufacturer would. So how does India control that?
Well, that's a very good question. First of all, I must tell you that we are very sensitive to the concerns that the very small people may not be able to adopt these standards overnight. So in most of our quality control orders, we give a transition period.
Okay.
So the small industry is given a certain amount of time. The micro industry whose turnover is less than 5 crores is given a certain longer period of time. I've also told my department that if you come across through stakeholder consultation and feedback, any difficulty that very small people may have, let's say somebody with a turnover of 20, 30 lakhs or 50 lakhs, then we can even look at even further longer transition period. Or if it's only something which is sold locally, we could even look at exemptions. So we are a very open government, a listening government, and very happy to engage with stakeholders and find solutions. I recently met with the shoes manufacturers, leather or sports shoes. There were some concerns that they had, and they had highlighted that to me. They had highlighted that through the press. I immediately called a meeting, and we got all people, traders, manufacturers, big, small, tiny. We got retailers who are doing malls or running shoe stores. And we had a very open, free and frank discussion. Wherever I felt that they had genuine problems, we found solutions to it. Wherever I felt that these are certain things where you'll have to take a little tough stand, we took a tough stand because ultimately, you're right, it's the nation's brand that suffers. Also, I think there's a lot more that needs to be done in terms of awareness, both of our consumers and service providers or goods providers. That's where I think friends like you, podcasts like what we are doing today can play an important role. This awareness, once the consumers have and they start demanding better quality, I'm very confident India's image will change, our thinking will change, we'll start producing good quality products. And I've run industry myself from a very young age. I can assure you, Smita ji, my own experience says quality is cheap. Quality never costs more money. It doesn't make your product more expensive. Quality helps you reduce wastage. It helps you get a better price more often than not, helps you capture bigger markets, helps you grow. And therefore, I think a little more training or let's say engagement with the small people to help them understand the importance of quality is what we are doing right now.
So we were talking about shoe manufacturers, and it just suddenly occurred to me to ask you this question, that a major problem, one of the earliest stories I did when I was working for a foreign broadcaster was about the environment issue with regard to shoe manufacturing, when they were dumping all their colored all the waste into the rivers. So that's why I want to come to that aspect, that when you bring in manufacturers, retailers, and exporters, do you even have that environment issue in mind when you bring them?
In most conversations with industry, sustainability is an issue today. I have in the morning today inaugurated a trade fair at Greater Noida, where the textile industry is showcasing their products, fashion accessories are being showcased. And the whole focus of the conversation, both with the industry stakeholders, the products that are on display, and my own engagement over there, was entirely focused around sustainability. And after my speech, in fact, the chairman of the program and the chairman of the Apparel Exporters Organization actually said that today, wherever we go, the only subject that's under discussion and of deep importance is sustainability. They recognize that important big markets like European Union, UK, US, particularly those with whom we are expanding our trade relations, our free trade agreements, they are very, very conscious of the products that they procure. Indians today have started becoming very conscious of that. You remember when Prime Minister Modi wore the recycled plastic jacket in Parliament? I mean, what better brand ambassador than that for India's collective effort to make the world a better place to live in? And it created ripples across the world. Of course, juxtapose that to somebody else wearing a Louis Vuitton scarf on the floor of Parliament with a big LV written. That's the stark difference.
But I think that's also India, right? That दोनों चीजें साथ-साथ चल सकती हैं.
दोनों अवश्य चल सकती हैं. But the issue was only about we are in Parliament. We are showcasing to the country and our countrymen our concern, our deep respect for every citizen of the country. And I think our textile manufacturers certainly would have been happier to see a scarf made in Kashmir or a scarf made in Himachal Pradesh.
And we are seeing a lot of that, the gamcha and the gamusa being worn by all of you ministers, all of you are wearing that, and everybody is commenting on that it's not just a fashion statement, it's a statement on pride in India's textiles.
And we are seeing a lot of that.
Yeah.
There was a time, I don't know if you're aware, the Madras lungi.
Madras checks.
The checks, but it's actually a lungi whose colors fade. Or whose colors change.
Bleeding colors.
Colors. That was the USP. But that was not something which India did out of choice. It was a bad quality product once upon a time, which bleeded color and then became a fashion statement. Now, we don't want to see an India of today which gets respect out of that failure. We want to create today our name for products which really are environment friendly. We want to create a name for very high fashion products. We want to create a name for the artistic value that our artisans bring to the table, that our tailors, that our designers bring to the table. I mean, I meet all the NIFT graduates, the National Institute of Fashion Technology. It's a delight to see some of their work. I engage with some of the fashion designers whom I'm trying to encourage to play a little more active role in the training of these budding fashion technologists. And they are supporting me in that. It's wonderful to see that a former dean of Harvard Business School chooses to do his wedding in Udaipur in India, chooses to bring the world's top business leaders and professors coming to India for his daughter's wedding. It's wonderful to see them come to India and shop the lehengas and the saris, not only for themselves, but they have tailors who are taking the measurement and getting clothes for all the guests. Now, this makes you so proud.
Yeah.
This is showcasing India. This is going to be the ambassadorial effort of our own Indians, our foreign residents also, non-resident Indians who come to India and take back a little bit of India for the rest of the world.
When the Prime Minister recently gave that green diamond to Jill Biden as a gift from India, I had so many people calling me, Abhi, ye kya cheez hai? What is green diamond? Is it green in color? But it doesn't look green in the photograph. So there was a little bit of confusion, and I was like, what is the PM doing? Because he's from Gujarat. The Surat diamond industry is there. Why would he give a diamond which is a fake diamond? Then Darshana ji tweeted that this is being cut and done, everything that whole process is from the Surat diamond, cutting edge technology used in doing that. And then I understood that. But what happens when the word will get along, oh, this is what the BJP government is doing, fake diamonds ko bech rahe hain bahar?
No, I think you need to understand what a diamond is first. As they say, diamonds are forever. Where does that come from? The diamond actually is created from carbon deposits. So diamonds are not something which are just floating around or come out of the ground. These are products which are developed over thousands of years sometimes from a very small piece of carbon, and further carbon deposits keep adding on that, and a diamond is created. And then that is mined, that's cut and polished, and that's the diamond all of you have been wearing for all these years.
Yeah.
Lab-grown diamonds are the same thing. Instead of being grown in the womb of the earth, they are being produced in a laboratory. These are lab-grown diamonds, as they call them, LGDs. The same concept. You take a small seed, which is put under a machine, and a lot of heat and carbon is deposited on that, due to which it keeps growing, and it creates the same effect of what is happening under the ground. You're doing it in the laboratory. So it's not a fake diamond. It's not even an artificial diamond. It's truly recreating a diamond. Instead of from the Mother Earth, it's being created in a laboratory. The amount of carbon that is used, its effect on sustainability or its effect on the environment is significantly lower than the natural diamonds that are mined.
Ecologically friendly,
So they're
which you were
ecologically
talking
friendly. We use renewable energy,
Solar
and wind, largely to produce those diamonds. Going forward, the idea is to have completely green diamonds, fully sustainable, only green energy going in to produce these diamonds. And today, India has a great edge against the rest of the world in the larger size lab-grown diamonds, where we almost produce most of it around the world. And look at the advantage. Not only are we now making our own diamonds, which were earlier imported from various countries around the world. Now we can make our own diamonds, and the cutting and polishing jobs continue to remain.
Yeah.
So and also look at the other aspect. Gradually, this will democratize the ownership and the joy of owning a diamond. I think it'll add value.
Yeah.
It'll add a lot of people into the diamond owning ecosystem.
Yes, true. It's, if you remember, since your textiles, it's what happened was that. Do you remember when the weaving industry was facing? In fact, one of the earliest programs that I worked for was something called Wither Textiles, which we produced in 1991. When handloom and power loom. And when power loom came and those saris were being produced on the power loom, it was like those who had handloom said, "Ab to sab log pehne lag jayenge silks. It's going to be so cheap." And so what? You know, those Kanjivaram saris or those saris which only the rich could afford, everybody could, thanks to the power loom that came in.
Yes and no. I think it's truly revolutionary that everybody got an opportunity to have patolas and kanjivarams. But at the same time, discerning consumers or customers continue to patronize the original hand-woven products.
Yeah.
Our handicraft and our handloom sector is flourishing. There are large export
There's
earners.
actually a waiting list in some places for a good paithani or a good patola, patan patola. It's quite amazing how it's all started. But anyway, let me get from fashion back to the meat and core. We were talking about the manufacturing sector. So lots of people say that, you know, these industrial complexes which are there in the cities or in the outskirts of the cities, the infrastructure is so poor. Like even, let me just say Gurgaon, if we see just not far from here, the roads, the approach, the sanitation, there's just nothing available. Or we see the Bandra Kurla complex. Why don't we see that? It's shiny new buildings, but the approach will be terrible. So when people come from abroad and they say कि इतना shiny building है पर वो जो road पे फंस जाते हो, वो infrastructure क्यों नहीं है? Why don't these things, city planning and all, go hand in hand with our manufacturing and our industrial sector?
Smita ji, I think while ANI has a very wide span across the country, I don't think you have moved out of Delhi quite a bit.
I have. Anyway.
I'm assuming so because
I just told you Bandra Kurla
complex. I went there only last week to see the Sound of Music with my
okay.
family and some friends. It was a pleasure to drive to Bandra Kurla complex. We glided into Bandra complex.
You must have gone at 2 a.m., sir.
Ma'am, it's an evening show. I went right in the middle of the evening. We now have the Bandra ceiling, on which after we crossed Haji Ali, we were quickly on to Bandra ceiling. When we came out near the ONGC Chowk, we now have another additional bridge that has come
You
up.
did not have a red batti car. Tell me now. Did you have a red batti car?
In Bombay, I use my own. Mumbai, I use my own car.
You don't
I
have
don't
a
even use the government car.
Okay.
So, and even in Delhi for that matter, I use my own personal car.
Really?
I've
You
come
don't
here-
have a red batti wali gadi?
Absolutely no red batti.
Nobody
and
putting the...
My car is standing right outside. Get somebody to check it out. It's my personal vehicle I bought
that's
from my own.
wonderful.
It's a hybrid. It's environmentally friendly and.
You used to
good
have an
vehicle.
ambassador car also at one point of time. I still
We used
remember.
to have ambassador for many years.
Yeah.
Then the Fiats, then the 118 NEs.
Yeah.
Then do you remember the Contessa, which
Yes.
came out from the ambassador
True.
stable?
I've seen you in at least 3
Maruti,
types of cars.
Yeah,
Yes.
then the different versions of both,
Yeah.
all types of cars.
Yeah.
But right now I'm on hybrid cars.
Hybrid car. Excellent.
Ever since 2015 actually. 15 and
I had
16.
Nitin Gadkari ji in the show and he also came in a hybrid car. So I'm very happy that you've done this. Amazing.
I think Prime Minister Modi himself is very conscious that we all need to be messengers of the future.
So let's come back to the infrastructure thing.
Yeah, so I think if you go to Bandra Kurla complex now, you go straight from the highway onto a flyover which takes you out at in the middle of Bandra Kurla complex at ICICI or there.
Monsoons, there's water in the highways.
See, I come from Mumbai. I've lived there all my life for the last 6 decades.
And there's not something that's happening today. Mumbai has 3 or 4 spurts of rain in every season. And during those 3 or 4 spurts, if that at the time of high rain, the high tide is also there, the combination of that is lethal. You can't do anything about it. Whatever one young person may suddenly say and blame the Mumbai corporation, which I think is very ridiculous because his party used to run the Mumbai Municipal Corporation for decades. The fact of the matter is, in the high tide,
Mumbai has several low-lying areas.
Yeah.
The evacuation of water becomes impossible because if you are evacuating water, it has to have an outlet somewhere. And the Mithi River, which is coming in the Arabian Sea, all are on high tide.
Yeah.
The evacuation of water just doesn't have an outlet. So it's something which will need to have a more technological solution, something which will have to be assessed, and maybe we'll have to spend billions of dollars to find an outlet on some other part of the landmass, which is not easy given the high volume of water, the size of Mumbai, and the fact that we are an island city. All three sides we have water.
Yeah. But sir, isme kya hota hai that there are many people, like what you said, that this has always happened, and it's an endemic problem because of the way the city is, the formation of the city. But then the expectation from your party is always that ki ye nahi karenge to aur kaun karenge. You get
Very
that?
true, and which is why you'll see the amount of infrastructure that's coming up. Look at the number of metro lines that have come up all across the country, particularly in Mumbai. Come and have a look at the coastal road. It's a marvel. It's an engineering delight. There used to be talk of a trans-harbour link connecting Mumbai, the island city, to the mainland. We have been hearing about the trans-harbour link for at least 30 years, connecting the Indian Mumbai island city to the mainland. And this has transformational impact on the future of Mumbai and will open up the mainland for expansion and growth, something which Mumbai is starved of, being an island city. It took Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government to come in. It took Devendra Fadnavis, our then Honorable Chief Minister, to take bold decisions. And voila, today it's a reality.
Yeah.
It's nearly complete, and in the next few months will be inaugurated. I hope at the hands of the Honorable Prime Minister.
Right.
It's going to completely revolutionize the Mumbai story, the Mumbai growth story. So look at the coastal road connecting us through a tunnel to Marine Drive.
You go to the eastern side from Nariman Point, and from there get onto the Trans-Harbour Link. So effectively, a journey from, let's say, Juhu or Andheri to Pune, which at one point of time would take 5 or 6 hours. When Nitin Gadkari was the PWD minister, he brought the Mumbai-Pune Expressway, which cut it down significantly, but still had the problem of access on both sides, the Mumbai to Panvel stretch and there the Pimpri to Pune stretch. But now, with PM Gati Shakti in play, a novel initiative of Prime Minister Modi, we are looking at end-to-end connectivity in whatever project we do. So now we will be able to, let's say, from Andheri, go up to Pune in under 1.5 hours or 2 hours.
Okay.
That is going to be the transformation of India.
Right.
I don't know if you've been to the Delhi-Mumbai Expressway at all.
Yes, I have.
My God, I went to Alwar the other
Quite
day in
immense.
2 hours.
Yes.
Something which would take 4 or 5 hours.
I've done it
earlier.
till Jaipur and it was fabulous. Yes.
And Jaipur, the last stretch is still not done.
Yeah, it's not done.
Then the Delhi-Gurgaon stretch is still not completed.
It takes 3 hours from Jaipur to Gurgaon and then 3 hours from Gurgaon to India Gate.
Pardon me, I've also done that. It's not 3
It
hours
is
on the
horrible.
last stretch. But
The
having
last-
said that, that is also being expanded. And the idea is that you'll do Jaipur in about 2.5 hours. You'll do Mumbai from Delhi in under 12 hours, possibly even 10. And now let me give you the dimension, the deep thinking that Prime Minister Modi brings to the table.
Though roads don't come under you, but road sports industry. Unless you have those two, your mantralaya can't function either. So that's why I am coming to you, because in case my viewers say, "Aap Piyush ji ko kyun mat pe dal rahe hain on this?" But
No.
that's the reason I'm asking you.
No, Smita ji, bear in mind that it's everybody's effort. Everybody's pitching in to
Yeah.
get outcomes.
True.
And frankly, it's not 2 or 3 ministries, it's all of us collectively. The whole of the government which is impacting the India story.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Jaishankar, who was on your show earlier, with his remarkable work under PM's guidance on our international engagement, is truly phenomenal. Without that, I couldn't have done this kind of exports. So it's a collective effort of everybody. If Purushottam Rupalaji's animal husbandry department hadn't given enough support, I couldn't have grown in export of fish products or meat and other products to such great extent. If agriculture hadn't done such wonderful work, we couldn't have got such massive agricultural exports from India. Our annadatas wouldn't have made us self-sufficient. We would have still been an import-dependent economy on food grains. So I think everybody is collectively pitching in. Our tourism minister, our railway minister, our culture minister, you name the department, skill development, education.
Yeah.
There's not a single element of government which cannot collectively have transformational impact on society.
Since you mentioned external affairs, let me get to the dragon in the room, elephant in the room, China. The trade deficit has crossed over $100 billion. Imports from China have declined, but it's still at 22%. So for most people, it's a little confusing. Is China a competitor? Is it a rival? Is it an enemy? What is it?
Well, we are all working on a World Trade Organization open government, open trading systems order. And goods and services are coming in from all over the world. Very often we are told you should not look back to what happened 10 years ago. You've been in government 9 years and all. But I would like to point out to you that those who do not listen to the lessons or learn from the lessons of history do so at their own peril. And look back at our history. Way back in 2004, when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, India's trade deficit with China was just about $1 billion or $1.5 billion dollars. From that, in 10 years, under the UPA government, it grew 3,300%. 33 times the trade deficit grew. I don't know what agreements the Shahzada did with the Communist Party of China. I don't know why they killed our domestic manufacturing in so many sectors. They killed the watch sector, they killed all consumer products, but encouraged more and more free exports from China to come in. In fact, they even kept reducing import duties, which became a great opportunity for China to wedge their way into the Indian market, very often with substandard products, very often at large-scale manufacturing that they do in China. They could beat Indian manufacturers hollow, and they did predatory pricing. Imagine now, 9 years later, we've been, despite the economy growing so significantly, after all, ultimately the demand for goods and services will grow with the size of the economy. The fact that our Indian consumers want services or want goods, they will look for opportunity wherever they can from India, and wherever India cannot feed their requirement, they will look for opportunities from outside the country. So China has benefited from that. So much so that there were areas which we should have focused on many years ago, which was not done in previous governments. Prime Minister Modi in the last few years has been focused on making India a stronger player, particularly look at the PLI schemes, production linked incentive schemes. We are looking at sectorally where we need to expand Indian manufacturing
and replace China
at scale. It's not about replacing China. It's more about ensuring resilient supply chains, wherever possible, becoming dependent only on India, or ensuring self-sufficiency, so that the lessons we learned from COVID, again lessons from history, are not repeated in the future, that we are starved of goods which we don't have sufficient supplies of in India.
So tell me, sometimes it's confusing for people. Is it Vasudeva Kutumbakam? Is it makes India self-reliant? Where do they come into conflict at all? Do we see Vasudev Kutumbakam only to help and to push our products, or do we see that interdependency? And what about Vishwaguru? I want to come to that too, because you had said that we think like a Vishwaguru. We are already thinking like a developed nation. So isn't it presumptuous for a developing nation to already say that hum Vishwaguru hain?
Smita ji, all three coexist. Vasudev Kutumbakam is at the core of our philosophy. The world is one family. We believe that we have to be respectful of the rest of humanity, of the rest of the world. We believe in friendly relations. India has never had an expansionist approach.
Right.
India has always been friendly with everybody. We always tried to find solutions through dialogue, diplomacy. We've never gone to war as an aggressor. In that spirit, Atmanirbhar Bharat, or being vocal for local, is also about a certain amount of confidence in our own manufacturing, our own skills, our own ability to meet the needs of Indians, because that is where we give jobs to our young boys and girls. That is where Indian opportunities of investment, trade, all of those come in. But when we talk of self-reliance, we are not closing India's doors to international engagement. If you at all ask me, I think we are opening them wider.
Okay.
I believe in the Michael Porter theory that every country or every economy will have certain strengths. The competitive or comparative advantage that different countries or different economies bring to the table will determine who will rule the roost in different products. Of course, there will be certain strategic sectors where you may not be the most competitive, but you will still want to be self-reliant. Though that's more a strategic call you take.
Okay.
But otherwise, we have to encourage Indian domestic manufacturing. We must try and create high quality goods at scale so that we are not overtly dependent on the rest of the world. But at the same time, the consumer demands affordability, the consumer demands good products at the best price. And if there is an area where it's better to import, where economies of scale within India don't justify it, or where somebody has a technologically higher competitive edge, then we'll have to bring those goods from abroad. And that is the spirit which has helped countries become developed nations. No country in the world has become a developed nation without first having the mindset that we want to be a developed nation, which Prime Minister Modi has, in his Independence Day address, tried to inculcate in 140 crore Indians.
Right.
And that mindset of quality, that mindset that I have the potential to become a Vishwaguru, that mindset is the first requirement. The second is capabilities. And we have managerial skills. We have our young boys and girls coming up with huge amount of talent. So we have that requisite also. We have a large number of natural resources which can make us self-sufficient. But then there are certain areas where we've not yet got the technological edge, and we'll continue to import.
Right.
So if today somebody says that, no, why are we importing aircrafts? That will be quite silly. Because we don't make aircrafts in India of the commercial size and scale and quality that are made in France or in America. So orders are being placed on them. So different countries will have a competitive edge or a quality edge or a technological edge, which we should leverage. Free trade agreements or economic partnerships are about having open economies, are about competing fairly, and about giving opportunities to both the Indian businesses or Indian people and people in the other parts of the world to compete for the consumer to get the best product at the best price.
Right. Let me make it shift a little political, but still with your portfolios. On the one hand, there is the Make in India, there is the Vishwaguru, and you are a part of there was also the India shining bit of your political party. On the other hand, what we are seeing now is the Congress party saying that here is this party which is pompous by nature, which talks about conquering the world, which talks about being so big, but where a large part of the country doesn't have the basics. So the whole thing about giving freebies comes in, which the Prime Minister said, Revdi culture, your party colleagues have said it, you have said it, that freebies is not the solution to it. But politically, it's having a negative effect. Now that these 4 elections are coming in, will your party also go in for Revdis distributing freebies?
Yesterday I was engaging with ex-servicemen of a very high level, generals, major generals, commanders and stuff like that, in Jaipur as a part of our outreach to engage with stakeholders, with the people of India about completing 9 years in government and thanking the people of India for giving Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his team and our party an opportunity to serve them 2 consecutive terms with an absolute majority so we could give a strong, decisive, outcome-oriented government. Very interestingly, one of the very senior retired armed forces personnel in his comments made this comment that just because Ashok Gehlot is offering a gas cylinder at 500 rupees, or some people are offering these freebies, please don't go down that path. He was advising me. He said it will be counterproductive. The people of India are smart. They understand what's good for them. They don't want to be a Sri Lanka or a Pakistan. They don't want to be a Bhandara Republic. They don't want to be like one of those 70-odd countries which are today facing stress. They recognize that Prime Minister Modi has made India from a fragile 5 economy 10 years ago to the world's 5th largest economy. And very soon to be amongst the top 3 countries, top 3 economies in the world, maybe in the next 4 or 5 years. He asked me to ensure that we stay our path and keep empowering the people of India. Keep empowering them so that their basic needs are taken care of.
And build an aspirational India which aspires for the good things of life, which spurs our young population to work even harder, earn money, and get the good things of life for them and their families. And that's exactly what the Prime Minister has been focused on. You talked about India shining. Prime Minister Vajpayee only got a very short period. And bear in mind, he was also running a coalition government. So there were limitations to his ability to maneuver economic policy or to maneuver the mindset of the nation to empower people and to move in the direction that we have been able to do. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and we are grateful to the people of India, and through you I would like to truly express the gratitude of all of us in the BJP to 140 crore Indians for the trust and confidence they have reposed in us, for the blessings they have given to the Bharatiya Janata Party again and again, particularly the absolute majority, because of which we could actually bring about a transformational change in the lives of our people. After all, tell me, could you give me any justification that for nearly 7 decades after independence, we had half our country's population who didn't have a toilet and had to go to the fields? Can you explain to me that 8 or 9 crore children, 3.5 crore families did not have electricity in their home? And for years, nobody did anything about it.
Yeah.
How can you justify that water? And most doctors tell us that that's the biggest cause of disease. Only 3 crore families in the country had water from a tap, Nal Se Jal, till 2014. And in a short period, we've increased it to 12 crore. Another 2.5 years from now, every home in the country will have water from their tap. Now, Nal Se Jal, the Jal Jeevan Mission, has a transformational impact potential on the health and the lives of our people.
Which many don't realize what it means. Some of us lead such insulated lives. We don't realize that unless water comes... I'll tell you one anecdotal experience. I had gone to cover the election in one place and I said, yahan se to nahi jeet sakte. BJP is not going to, because traditionally they have voted for the Congress. For generations they voted, so there's a muscle memory kind of a thing. When they go to vote, they will automatically vote. But it was later that I realized that no, they are voting for the BJP, and simply because of the gas connection that came in. And something that we take for granted, what bothers us in the cities, that you had a waiting list for a gas cylinder maybe, that you had to buy it in black, but it was available. But for those people, for them to get a gas connection and to get gas in the house, and the youth was voting. So I was like, why would a young man vote? उसको तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है कि गैस है कि नहीं घर में, पानी आया कि नहीं, because it's the woman who does it.
स्मिता जी, मैं एक करेक्ट कर दूं.
It matters.
एक छोटा सा करेक्ट कर दूं. शॉर्टेज भी रहती थी सिलेंडर्स की. अगर आप याद करो, तो आप या मेरे घर में हम 2 सिलेंडर रखा करते थे कि एक खत्म होगा, दूसरे को भरोसा नहीं है क्योंकि रजिस्टर करना पड़ता था लाइन में, कब आएगा वो, तो दूसरा सिलेंडर यूज करते. अब ऐसे समृद्ध परिवारों को तो ये सुविधा मिलेगी. गरीबों की किसने चिंता की थी आज तक?
तो मैं सोचती कि why would a young chap, because it was the responsibility of the woman कि वो she would get the firewood and
I'll
cook.
tell you why the young man. आपको पैडमैन पिक्चर याद है? पैडमैन में मुर्गन की स्टोरी एक तरीके से तमिलनाडु के युवा की. पैडमैन में एक आदमी को पीड़ा थी कि मेरी पत्नी को सैनिटरी पैड नहीं मिल पा रहा.
It's the same thing.
Doctors tell me that cervical cancer in women is largely because of these 2 problems, toilet and sanitary pads.
So,
Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi ji coming from a very humble background and very conscious of his responsibilities to the poor of this country, the less privileged, the marginalized sections, the persons who have been discriminated for so many years, has brought sanitary pads in the country available at 1 rupee each without a government subsidy. They are being sold at the Jan Aushadhi stores so that a poor lady can get for 100 rupees in a whole year security from this
The diseases that come with not having that.
I think the men also recognize
Yeah,
that
because-
how indignified